The Hague Rules, prepared by Jose Marciano Gutierrez Orocu, ID 1251260. Introduction. The hypothesis of the Hague-Bisbee rules and the previous Anglo-Saxon law on which they are based was that generally a carrier has much more bargaining power than a shipper, and that to protect the interests of the shipper owner of cargo, the standard should impose certain minimum freight obligations on the carrier. The Hague-Bisbee rules are a set of international standards for the maritime transport of goods. It affects transport under a bill of lading range only. They are versions with slight variation of the original Hague rules which the International Maritime Committee drew up in the 1921, but which were approved in the Brussels International Convention on 1924. It is the most widespread agreement within maritime law, although it is in favor of the carrier and has become obsolete due to the development of containers maritime transport. Area of application. The Hague-Bisbee rules apply to shipping on a bill of lading basis if one of the following three conditions is met. The bill of lading is formally in a state that has signed the agreement. The transport originated from a port of a signatory state. The bill of lading is formalized in a state that has signed the agreement. The transport originates from a port of a signatory state. The bill of lading stipulates that the transport contract will be governed by the provisions of the agreement regardless of the nationality of the vessel, the carrier, the shipper, the consignee, or any other interested party. Parties involved an obligation of the carrier. The main obligations of the shipowner are to load and maintain, transport, monitor, guard, and unload properly and properly the goods to be transported and diligently carry out the tasks necessary to provide a ship in uncertain state with the proper equipment and the proper crew. It is understood that you should not deviate from the Hague route or the usual route, for Article 4 stipulates that any deviation to save lives or property at is should not be considered an infraction of violation of the rules. The obligations of the carrier are not strict, they only require reasonable professionalism. Furthermore, Article 4 allows the carrier a wide range of situations in which they can waive their financial obligation and claim. Other peculiarities. The carrier is not responsible for a possible delay. The responsibility of the carrier begins when the merchandise is loaded at the port of shipment and ends when it's unloaded at the port of destination. In other words, tackle to tackle without considering previous or subsequent operation or periods spent in port terminals or docks. Modification and bill of lading. A bill of lading or BL is a document specific to maritime transport that is used within the framework of contract for the carriage of goods on a ship on a regular line. The purpose of this document is to establish the rules of the contractual relationship between the shipper, the consignee or recipient, and the carrier, giving confidence to each party regarding of behavior of the others. Obligation of the carrier. The carriage of goods under the bill of lading regime is regulated by the Brussels Convention of 1924, which has been modified by the Hague Bisbee Rules of 1968 and more recently by the Hamburg Rules of 1978, the latter elaborated by UNCITRAL. The SDR Protocol of December 21, 1979 established the limit for liability of the carrier in which is greater than the following amounts: 666.67 SDR package. The container rule applies, which distinguishes pallets of packages if tricabyte in the bill of lading. 2 SDR per kilogram gross weight. For the reason it's important that shippers provide accurate cargo data to shipping companies prior to each one of the bill of lading. This way, the packages that are stored inside the container may appear detailed and the limit of the responsibility of the shipping company migrator. Conclusion of the Hague Rules. The old liability regime contemplated in the Brussels Convention of 1924, the Hague Rules, and its subsequent protocol on 1968, which gave rise to the Hague Bisbee Rules, has to receive a true revision. The treatment of the navigability of the ship under Article 4 cannot be upheld today since the carrier obligation regarding the seaworthiness of the ship must be required not only at the previous time and at the time of the beginning of the trip, but also during the entire duration of the same until the delivery of the merchandise and destination, configuring the obligation of the carrier or carrier as result the responsibility of the same under Articles 3 and 4 must be treated as guarantee and not depend on the carrier's exercise of the diligence. All the obligations of the carrier contemplated in Articles 3 and 4 of the Brussels Convention of 1924 regarding the preparation of the ship and its crew to provide a good transport, service and condition by the requirements of the Code, International Safe Maritime Code, and the cruise train conversion. So the maritime carrier of the 21st century will necessarily have to comply with the new regulation. Thank you, Teacher Manuel Arango.